Good evening, Camphill friends, co-workers, family members, community members, staff, and of course, our generous supporters. Today is Monday, June 1st, 2020, and today is the 80th anniversary of the founding of the Camphill movement in Scotland. And we are so delighted to have you here with us. Not unlike that moment in time 80 years ago when Camphill's founders first established the roots of this extraordinary movement, we find ourselves in a very special moment in time. Normally, we would meet together in person to celebrate Camphill and all of the beautiful gifts that it brings to the world. This year, we are coming to you remotely, all of us in our homes, in our seats, not on our feet in a ballroom, but still very much united together in the Camphill spirit. And I want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for your presence in joining us tonight. I want to thank all of our Gala supporters, our early sponsors who helped us to raise funds when we were still planning to hold our event in New York City. I want to thank each of you for being with us tonight. Tonight's program has been entirely pre-recorded to make it easy for you to enjoy our annual Gala program. Now you can watch this program in its entirety, just let this current video keep running, or you can select the sections that you'd like to see first and watch things at your leisure. You'll notice on the right-hand side of your screen, there are some important buttons. One of them says donate. We hope that you'll take a moment to click that button over the course of the evening. Another one is our silent auction, which has been running for more than a week and will close at 8 p.m. tonight, June 1st. We also invite you to check out our very special raffle item, which is 4 VIP tickets to a live taping of the Stephen Colbert Show. Tickets on that are limited, so make sure you get your tickets in. And finally, we have some fun things for you to do right here on our Gala website that we hope will feel connecting and really emphasize the ways that we come together as community. So I hope you'll take a moment, sign our guest book, take our community quiz to see how good your memory is. And most of all, sit back and enjoy and celebrate with us, because each one of you is part of our Camphill family. And we are so proud of what Camphill means in the world today. And we're so pleased that you are our partners in this beautiful work. Welcome and enjoy the evening. To help kick things off, I'm delighted to present to you our newly elected board chair, Amy Rubenstein, whose family has been part of the Camphill movement for more than 40 years. Amy, take it away.
Thank you, Karen, for your beautiful words and for kicking off our 80th anniversary special event. I want to take a moment to welcome friends, family, donors, Camphill co-workers, communities, and anyone affiliated with Camphill to this great evening. We recognize this is a time of great stress, uncertainty, and sadness for many, but we also see glimmers of hope. We see people sacrificing themselves to help others. We see a lot of people living simpler lives. We see a positive impact on our environment. And we see people connecting with family and friends in ways they haven't before, whether virtually or in person. What we're seeing right now, the caring of our spirit, of the earth, and of our community are the core principles on which the Camphill movement was founded on 80 years ago by Dr. Carl Koenig. And using an all too familiar phrase, now more than ever, the core values and beliefs of Camphill are amplified by this pandemic. And it's the reason that we're here tonight and believe that celebrating 80 years of a movement that's been so valuable to so many is important. Camphill is important to so many people and has been a part of my family's life for 40 years. My brother Andrew has lived in Camphill communities, and we are grateful for the meaningful and productive life that he leads today. The Camphill Foundation exists to support region-wide initiatives for Camphill all over North America and around the world. Your support matters. Your donations fund region-wide initiatives like the Camphill Academy, like recruiting new coworkers to support communities, and during this very difficult time, making sure that all community members are safe and healthy. Once again, thank you for your generous and continued support. Please enjoy this next video, a timeline of the history of Camphill. You're sure to see some familiar faces.
Thank you, Amy, for that wonderful introduction to tonight's event and for introducing our very special anniversary timeline video. It's now my great pleasure to introduce our Gala co-chairs, Flory Siri and Jim Siri. Flory is a longtime Camphill mom and Jim a longtime Camphill uncle. And we are delighted to have them as our Gala co-chairs this year. They were really instrumental in helping us to take our auction to new heights and to offer wonderful new auction items that we can provide for all of our supporters. So it's my great delight to welcome Flory and Jim, who will offer some remarks on how the communities are doing these days.
Hey, Jimmy, what are you doing with all that wine? Well, Flo, I've got three wines here in New York City. We're sitting out on the terrace enjoying some of our favorite wines from some of the best vineyards in Napa Valley. We've got the Dakota Shy, who are good friends of ours at the bottom of Pritchard Hill. We've got our friends from Constant, who sit at the top of Diamond Mountain. And then we've got our friends from Gargiulo, who are one of the best vineyards in Oakville. And Christina and I really enjoy going out to Napa, taking time in the beautiful area of Napa Valley, seeing some of these great vineyards and sampling some of their great wares. But this year, we're particularly proud to be drinking these three wines because these vineyards have decided to support Camphill in the Camphill virtual auction.
Well, that's music to my ears, wine and Camphill. And of course, we're here today to celebrate a very important movement that has changed so many lives, and it's a very personal story for our family. My son, your nephew Alistair, came to Camphill Special School 12 years ago. He was a very frustrated autistic child who would run away given any opportunity. Now, he's a really important member of the Triform community, where he makes a significant contribution in the garden and also works in the pottery studio. His life is filled with friendships and celebrations.
Well, you're right. The change in Alistair has been tremendous, as it has been in the lives of so many folks in the Camphill community. We've found that folks with developmental disabilities, the transformative experience they can get in Camphill really brings them to their full selves. And the Camphill community is such a warm, loving community that cares for everybody in it. You know, it's remarkable during this COVID pandemic that of the 16 communities in North America, not one of them has had a COVID outbreak. And that's really just a tremendous testament to the Camphill leadership, the staff at each of these communities, and of course, the tremendous coworkers that we have.
That's amazing. While we've not been able to see Alistair since the lockdown in March, we know that he's safe and he's participating in the work and in the community. And of course, we FaceTime with him every day.
Well, that's funny because we know he never misses an opportunity to FaceTime on an anniversary or a birthday or any special occasion. And we know he reaches out not just to us, but to hundreds of people. In fact, since it's our 80th birthday at Camphill, shouldn't he be calling in or zooming into this call right now?
Well, why don't we try to get him on this Zoom call?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Hey, Alistair. Thanks for calling
Alistair!
in. How are you?
Hi, Uncle Jim.
Alistair, whose birthday is it today?
Camphill's birthday.
And what do you say?
Happy birthday, Camphill.
Well, happy birthday, Camphill. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you, Alistair, and thank you, Camphill.
Thank you, Flory and Jim, for those wonderful remarks. Some of you may think you recognize Flory, and you're probably right. Flory was recently featured in some of our online media and our recent newsletter as one of our Camphill parents who has found a new way to connect with her son during this time when we are all separated physically. So you might recall seeing a photo of her reading by FaceTime to her son who lives in a Camphill community. And so many of our communities have adjusted to this new way of life and found creative ways to stay connected. It's really beautiful. The next thing up on our program is our annual Gala video. And this year's video features some Camphill family members from the past, the present, and the future. Please enjoy.
It was wonderful to learn at hand of the child what a human being actually is. I think it had to do with the heart, It had to do also with the children, that is the part in the handicapped child that is most prevalent. that was speaking out of the children. You know, they may not have been able to walk and they may not have been able to say a straight word, but there was always this connection through the soul, really, and the heart. So heart and soul was really kind of the center part. And of course there was Dr. Koenig, who was able to create as a refugee out of nothing, to create this movement which is carrying so much good into the world.
Here at Camphill, she gets everything all in one piece. There's work, there's meaningful work integrated with therapy approaches, there's friends, there's activities. So for me, it's so easy to know she's getting a full and complete package. I'm so lucky that she's able to grow and thrive here, and I'm able to grow and thrive and come and be here with her.
The skills that Ted has developed here are remarkable. And when he comes home for a visit, we see that on display. He takes care of his room in the way that one would only dream that their child would take care of their room. He makes his bed every day. He keeps all of his belongings neatly organized. So that's something that we're so proud of you for, Ted. And he does these things that are so far beyond where we thought he would be. And we were with his grandparents over the weekend, and I remember that Grandma said that she could never believe that you would be able to talk the way that you talk, and to be able to share the experiences that he's having here. So every day he surprises us with how much he does and the level of independence that he has. Ted is making his way in the world as an individual. He's not solely in the role of our child, someone with disabilities. He's making his way in the world as an adult with his own skills, his own interests, his own friends. And for us to know that he has that kind of a life is everything that we could have dreamed of and hoped for.
What I see for her future is what I see here, being developed here. I'd love her in 9-10 years when she graduates from here and ages out of, at 21. I'd love her to be in a similar Camphill where she continues those things, right? Of being people recognizing her self-worth and part of a community where she is a contributing part of the community.
It's just really cool to see her being out there and doing all these different things that honestly I don't think we ever really thought that she would be able to do. And now we're like, oh my gosh, I think we were kind of cuddling her a little bit too much, and keep her in the bubble, and that just to see her growth is awesome, and I hope that it continues and that I can be visiting her at her house, living in a community like this, and that she just keeps progressing into the future. Yeah. We're waiting for you to bow.
Bow.
Good job.
Oh my goodness, what a beautiful video. Thank you so much to Margaret Metro, to Janet and Caroline Smith, to Ted and Mark Hansler, and of course to Katie Rushing and her family. And I also want to thank our communities who helped make that video possible. Camphill Ghent, the Camphill School, and Camphill Village, Kimberton Hills. It's a great delight for us every year to be able to feature some of our community members, and I hope that you were as inspired as I was seeing their stories and looking at the past, the present, and the future in a way that inspires us to think about what comes next for the next 80 years. My good friends, as you know, many of you from attending our in-person gala over the years, we have a moment in the evening each year when we raise the paddles and raise support for our communities. Tonight we might be in our homes, but I'm hoping that we can still raise the funds that are needed to support our communities now and into the future. So friends, I'm gonna ask everyone to grab your phone. Take out your phone right now. I've got mine right here. Let's all take out our phones. If you haven't already set up an account, this process is so simple and straightforward. All you need to do is text Camphill Gala 2020 to the number 243725. And right away, you're going to receive a response with a link that will help you sign up to make your gift. If you've already set up your account, all you need to do is tap the donate button and make your gift now. We're so grateful for your support over the years, and we have been able to do so much good. Since 1966, more than $10 million in grants and low-interest loans and programmatic support have been made possible to the Camphill communities in North America and in developing areas of the world. We need your help more than ever to ensure that the beautiful way of life that Camphill makes possible is sustainable well into the future. So let's all take out our phones right now and show our support for Camphill communities. Thank you so much. Friends, we're at the point in our program where it is my great pleasure to introduce this year's Camphill Elizabeth Boggs Award honoree, Professor Dan McCannon from Harvard Divinity School. Before I introduce Dan, I'd like to tell you a few things about Elizabeth Boggs. She was in many ways a woman before her time. As she professionalized and mainstreamed advocacy, Dr. Boggs became one of our nation's leading voices for the disabled. She helped co-found the ARC and served as its first woman president, and she was chosen by President Kennedy to serve on the team that would create the landmark Developmental Disabilities Act, legislation that still today guides our nation's efforts to ensure that individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities experience self-determination, independence, productivity, and integration and inclusion in all aspects of our community lives. We are forever grateful to her for these efforts. This year's Elizabeth Boggs Leadership Award honoree is Professor Dan McCannon from Harvard Divinity School, and we could not have found a more worthy recipient of this honor. Dan has been part of the Camphill family since 1999, more than 2 decades, when he first visited Camphill, Minnesota, and spent his summers there as a co-worker for a number of years. At Harvard, Dan teaches and studies religious and social movements, including areas that focus on environmentalism and ecology, as well as intentional living. Last summer, Dan made it possible for Camphill to host the triennial International Communal Studies Association Conference in our 4 Camphill communities in upstate New York. He has been a great friend and advocate to Camphill. He truly understands our philosophy rooted in anthroposophy, and I am delighted to present this year's Elizabeth Boggs Award honoree, Dan McCannon.
It is with great joy that I accept the Elizabeth Boggs Leadership Award in these tumultuous and uncertain times. It's been my pleasure to be a friend and observer of the Camphill movement for 2 decades. During those years, more than a dozen new Camphill places have opened around the world, several of them right here in North America. Many Camphill places have opened their doors to the wider world. welcoming day program participants, and employees who build bridges to surrounding neighborhoods. Camphill is visible in the downtown streets of Hudson and Kimberton and Vancouver in ways that were once unimaginable. Self-advocates like the Hudson Players are sharing their stories with wider audiences and insisting that all people have the right to live in vital communities and among friends who cherish their unique gifts. Camphill Academy has empowered young volunteers to combine their education with a vibrant experience of community life. Every day, Camphillers breathe new life into old traditions. The practices of income sharing and life sharing have faced challenges, but still survived. And each season brings festivals that are celebrated with as much joy as ever. In the past 20 years, Camphill has also built sturdier bridges to other communal movements and to the community of scholars who study communities. It's been my delight to play a small part in this. At last summer's International Communal Studies Association meeting, Camphillers built new friendships with kibbutzniks from Israel, eco-villagers from Brazil and India, and advocates for more multicultural inclusion in the intentional community movement here in the United States. One highlight of the conference was a conversation among leaders from both Camphill and the L'Arche movement. These two networks of inclusive communities have worked separately for far too long. I can't wait to see what will emerge from their growing partnership. I also can't wait to see how Camphill will transform itself in the face of the grave new challenges confronting the world today. Camphill has much to offer our world as we struggle to heal from COVID-19 and from the injustices that have made the pandemic so much worse. In the past months, we've seen how difficult it is for congregate care facilities to protect their residents from infection. Camphill shows that holistic, life-sharing communities with their own food supplies can limit exposure to the outside world when needed, while maintaining supportive relationships on the inside. We've seen how people who lack access to healthy food and active lifestyles are more vulnerable to disease. Camphill shows how a community can empower all its residents to live in balance with themselves and with their environment. We've seen empty grocery store shelves because our globalized food system cannot adapt when people stop eating restaurant meals. Camphill shows that local food networks are more resilient and adapted to genuine needs. We've seen millions of people lose their income because it is not safe for businesses to stay open. And we've been reminded that the most essential workers, those who care for the vulnerable, are often paid too little to live on. Camphill shows that it is possible for each person to do whatever work the world needs without regard to income, and for each person to receive the income they need without regard to how much they are able to work. 80 years ago, Karl Koenig and his friends agreed to light their candle on a hill overlooking the River Dee in Scotland. They followed the lead of their students Peter Burgel, Alistair McMillan, and so many others who deserve credit as the real visionaries of Camphill. By sharing their gift of friendship, attention, and hard work, they showed us all what a non-disabling society can look like. The doorway to such a society is still open today for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dan, for those beautiful, heartfelt remarks. You are truly worthy of the Elizabeth Boggs Leadership Award, and we are so happy to have you as part of our Camphill family. And friends, with that, we've come to the end of our evening, and I raise my glass to all of you. I want to say thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for your support tonight and throughout the years. I want to remind you that our silent auction is open for a few more minutes. It will close at 8 p.m. tonight, June 1st. And we have one more wonderful video for you. This is a flash mob from our friends at Camphill Hudson up in Columbia County. And if you're like me, you'll probably be up singing and dancing just like they are. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful summer, and we look forward to seeing everybody next March in person in New York City. Good night, everyone.